Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of the Nightlife Podcast. We are in our fourth episode, and in this episode, we're joined by guests Eric Dunn, principal of Pleasant Run Middle School, and Ryan Whitaker, Dean of Students at Pleasant Run Middle School. This episode is focused on the relationship between Pleasant Run Middle School and Northwest High School. Really great conversation, and we appreciate those guys coming in. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Nightlife, our fourth episode of our podcast covering all things Northwest School District, Northwest High School, and everything else in between. I'm Bill Bangert, 1979 graduate of Northwest High School, along with Bradley Watkins, my co-host.
How you doing, Bill?
Doing great. Looking forward to some exciting news from 2018.
Yeah.
And we have some guests with us today. Eric Dunn, the principal of Pleasant Run Middle School, and Ryan Whitaker, the Dean of Students at Pleasant Run Middle School.
Good morning.
Welcome, guys. And we're going to talk about today the relationship between Northwest High School and Pleasant Run Middle School, covering everything, academics, athletics, and everything involved with the Northwest community. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about your background, first of all, with Pleasant Run Middle School.
Well, I'm Ryan Whitaker. I'm the Dean of Students at Pleasant Run Middle School. I've been in the district for 9 years now.
Okay.
I taught 8th grade science for about 7. This is my 5th year as Dean. I did 2 years as kind of an in-between part-time 8th grade, part-time Dean as well. I also coach football at Northwest High School. I've been coaching football here for about 5 years.
Okay.
I was on the previous staff with Nate Mahan, and I'm on the new staff here with Lee Johnson.
What do you coach?
I'm the varsity defensive line coach.
All right.
And then I coach basketball at the middle school as well. So.
Great. All right, Eric?
I'm Eric Dunn, the principal at Pleasant Run Middle School. Been in the district for 11 years. My first 5 years in the district from 2007 to 2012, I was here at Northwest High School. I believe where we are right now was a ROTC closet, so it's really cool to see what you guys have done with the space and have the studio set up. It's really cool to come back and see that. The past 5 years, I've been at Pleasant Run Elementary, which is a grade 4 and 5 building that feeds into Pleasant Run Middle School. I was a head principal down there for 5 years, and then this is my first year at Pleasant Run Middle. I'm a graduate of the district. I actually went to Northwest High School, graduated in 1997.
Okay.
So,
all right.
so it's cool for me to come back and be, in my own community and neighborhood and be able to affect some positive change.
I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this question, but when I was going to Pleasant Run Junior High, it was junior high. When did it become a middle school? Anybody have any idea? It's trivia, but I was just curious. My wife asked me.
Like 1990, 91.
Okay.
It went from junior high.
Was that just a 7th, 8th grade building then? There was no 6th grade at that building?
Correct. They brought in 6th grade, I think, in 90 or 91.
Okay. I was only there like 5 weeks from in late of the school year, 75, 76, before going into the high school in the fall of 76.
Did you have to walk like up hills?
Both ways in the snow. It snowed in May.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And you went on cold days too, right?
Absolutely.
Cold days.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. We're seeing all this 40th anniversary of the blizzard from 78, and that's when I was going to Northwest, and I've got stories about that, but we don't need to get into that right now. Tell me, first of all, I don't know who wants to take this, what's happening at Pleasant Run Middle School right now?
A lot's happening. I came in this year, new administration, an opportunity to change and improve some things at the building. So one of our big initiatives, I felt like the first year we needed to address kind of climate and culture before we even get to the academic piece and changing schedules and things like that. We wanted to focus on discipline and just culture and climate of the building and try and bring some more positivity into the building. So one of the things that we did, and Mr. Whitaker can fill in the holes that I'm missing on this, is we created the PRMS Pride program, which we kind of mirror after the Northwest Pride program that they have up here. It's very similar to the PRE Pride program that I started at Pleasant Run Elementary. Right. But what it is just an opportunity to recognize students who are doing good things on a daily basis, maybe going above and beyond in the classroom or in the hallways or the cafeteria, and it's a way to recognize those students who are having a positive impact on the building. The way the program works is, as teachers or staff recognize students that are going above and beyond, they give them it's a Pride card. It's kind of like a business card. It says PRMS Pride on it. Mm-hmm. They fill it out, drop it in a bucket in the office, and then every Friday we're drawing names out of the bucket for students that win the Pride Award. They come down, they win T-shirts. They can win Pride recesses and other incentives. So it's just a chance to try and encourage the kids to do good on a daily basis, kind of go above and beyond what they've normally been doing, and just kind of generate some positive press for them, for their esteem, and then for the building as well.
How's that been received so far?
Do you want to get into that?
I think the kids really dig it. For the most part, they go above and beyond to try to earn a card, and when they come down to get their T-shirt, they're pretty excited. We take their picture and we post it and just kind of make a big deal about it. So I really feel like they are trying to become more prideful in not just what they do in the school and just what they do with themselves. So it's neat to kind of see them take a little bit of ownership in the stuff that they do and police themselves a little bit versus us having to do it all the time.
Well, how about the faculty and staff? How are they receiving this and dealing with it?
I think it's new for them, so I think they like it. I think some of them find themselves forgetting to hand out cards as much as maybe they should. So we try and remind them once a month to do that. But I think overall it's been pretty positive. We haven't had any pushback from them. I know when I landed this job last year and went up in the spring and we're talking to staff, a lot of the common themes I heard from staff was we need to do a better job recognizing our kids. We really don't have assemblies. We don't really do anything to kind of get school spirit started. Right. So this is something that we do to try and generate that in the building level.
Okay. Anything else that's new to this school year at Pleasant Run Middle School?
I think one of the awesome things, other than the addition of Mr. Dunn and our new assistant principal, Mr. Thompson, who've been a great addition, is the building level committees that we have going on, the PLCs that we have with all the teachers, getting them involved in everything that's going on the daily basis at school, from the parent committee working with teachers and the PTA and the technology committee and the PD committee getting together and doing some in-service stuff, giving them some ownership of what's going on in the building as well, and letting them know that we trust them to make the good decisions that they do and the work that they do with the kids. That's awesome.
Right.
Brad, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just, and we're going to get into this, but I can tell from, the high school's perspective, Eric brought up the point about, assemblies and getting involved, and that'll kind of segue into this next, the description of our relationship with the middle school from a high school perspective. Our assistant AD, Winston Licata, has taken over and kind of done a really nice job of making sure that we get our kids down to the Pleasant Run Middle School and are around the building, in the hallways, at assemblies, and that's come from Mr. Dunn's leadership and a request for that to happen, because I think when he was here before, and I. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when he was here before, that happened on a more regular basis.
Right.
And that's something that we've taken task on, and we're trying to work together and building that relationship, both athletically, and then we've had some professional development days that we've combined as a staff, and it's been very beneficial to get on the same page.
So talk a little bit more about that. So you have students that come from Northwest High School down to Pleasant Run Middle School, and how often does that happen? How are they chosen? What do they do when they go to the middle school? Okay,
and that was an emphasis that we had going into this year. Again, last year when I came down and talked to the staff in the spring, a lot of them said, quote unquote, back in the day, we used to, Northwest was down here a lot, and we had the athletes down here and pep assemblies, and we had the United Nights down working with our kids. And for whatever reason, and I wasn't around to know why, but for whatever reason, in the last probably 6-7 years, I kind of fell off to the point where I think over the last 3 or 4 years, there was nothing happening at all between the buildings, like at all. So one thing that we wanted to do coming into this year, and having a positive relationship with Brad and Susan up here, just personally, it was, how can we bridge that gap and kind of infuse the students and the staff between the two buildings. So we had a fall pep assembly that my teachers were very, very nervous about. How are we all going to fit in the gym? Okay. How is this going to work? We haven't done this in years and years and years. I don't know if our kids can handle it. But we came down conveniently. I was out of the building that day, so I set up this pep assembly and wasn't even in the building. So if it went bad, I wouldn't have to deal with it.
It was amazing.
But it went really well. I remember coming in the next day and the staff just raving about how great it was, and the high school did such a good job, and our kids were so excited. So we decided to do, I think, our first winter pep assembly that maybe we've ever done. We always did one in the fall, but never in the winter. But just a couple weeks ago, we had them up to do a winter pep assembly for basketball. Again, just kind of getting that rah Northwest, getting my kids at the middle school excited to be Knights and get them to want to come to the high school, so they can be exposed to what the basketball players look like, what the cheerleaders look like, what the cheers are, what the fight song is. I think it's really important to build that relationship between the buildings, and really trickling all the way down to the elementary. And I know Brad does some things at the elementary as well. For me, I think it's really important for our kids starting from the elementary level to just be excited about becoming Knights. So when they get to the 8th grade year, they don't want to go to Coleraine. They don't want to go to LaSalle or St. Next. They want to go to Northwest and see all the cool things that are happening up here. So I think, again, back in the spring, that was seen as from the staff as being something that needed to happen. We bring the United Knights down. They work with our kids. Mr. Licata brings down kids at lunchtime. The plan is, I think, second semester to have kids come down periodically during lunch just to hang out with our students. We have the United Knights come down every once in a while. We do a positive behavior incentive called, we call it a Pride Recess.
Okay.
So we have a select group of maybe 15 and 20 kids that get selected through our positive behavior supports to do an extra recess kind of right in the middle of the day, so they get out of class and they can come down and play dodgeball or basketball or whatever they choose to do. But we'll bring down 10 or 12 United Knights from the high school, so they get to interact with the middle school kids, and usually they talk a real brief positive message to the kids about what Pride is at the high school, what Pride looks like, what you need to have to be successful at the high school level. So I think just establishing those relationships between our middle school kids and the high school kids is huge. And I'll let Ryan speak to this, but he talks about just
all the time
the importance of our kids seeing, okay, I'm in middle school, and sometimes middle school can be hard, but when I come out the other end at high school level, this is what I can be in a few years.
I think it's neat to sit back and watch the interactions between the middle school kids and the high school kids, and then vice versa, the middle school kids between the elementary school kids, just to kind of see the glaze over the younger kids' eyes when they look in admiration to all these older guys and see, oh my gosh, look how big those guys are as they come in with their football jerseys are. Or look how pretty those cheerleaders are as they come in and they do these cheers. And just the whole, like Eric said, the desire to be a Knight, the idea of we are all one family from PRE to the middle school to the high school, and we are all Knights. To see the kids go through the K to 12 program as Knights and to get that whole just sense of community. And we got really good parents. We got really good kids who work hard at the stuff that they do, and they deserve to be successful, and they deserve to have the same type of continuity and success that other people do in their programs. So it's really neat to kind of see that happening.
Once again, we're talking with Eric Dunn, the principal of Pleasant Run Middle School, and Ryan Whitaker, the dean of students at Pleasant Run Middle School. And either one of you can take this. Since you've put these initiatives into place, have you seen anything tangible or intangible that comes to mind that says, hey, what we're doing is making a difference on whatever level? Is it fewer detentions? Is it fewer suspensions, expulsions? Or is it just a better feeling in the building? I don't know. Can you quantify it in any way?
Since this is my first year, I'll let Ryan take this one since he has a perspective of previous years.
The behavior is still the behavior, and luckily for me, that keeps me employed. But it gets better, and you see improvement, and you do see the same 10, 15% of the kids that create 90% of the problems in the building. And we work with those kids restoratively. We try to, help them to make better decisions and to learn from what their mistakes were and other people's mistakes. So it's still similar discipline, but like I said before, the kids are policing themselves more. Like they understand what the expectations are, that we have high expectations for them, and the only way that they're going to get there if they have high expectations for themselves. So by us holding this standard in the building and being consistent, we have a pretty strict demerit policy that we put in place this year, where if this happens, this is your consequence. If this happens again, this is your consequence. So it's consistent, it's fair, and the kids know what to expect versus kind of picking and choosing what our consequences are going to be based on the discipline. So the continuity, the fact that Mr. Dunn, Mr. Thompson, and myself are all on the kind of the same page. If there's issues, if there's questions, it's a comfortable environment where we can go to each other and bounce ideas off of one another and just work collaboratively to make sure that all the kids at Pleasant Run Middle School are successful, even those 15%.
Right. You mentioned students policing themselves. Talk a little bit about how important that is and how it plays out.
It's too big for us. Like it's too big with 800, 900 kids in our building. We got around 250-ish kids per grade, give or take, 15 each way. And there's 3 administrators and 70 staff members, and they outnumber us. So if we get a couple of them, then they're willing to buy into what we do, and then eventually we get a couple more to buy into what we do. Over the course of the year and over the next couple of years, we hope that climate and that culture that we want to build is that warming, embracing type of atmosphere where we feel like the kids can learn and be successful and have fun and become great high school students and adults.
You mentioned earlier kind of the trickle-down thing of the high school students being good role models and examples for the middle school, and then the middle schoolers being good examples for the elementary, and then how that grows. Talk a little bit about how that impacts the whole Northwest community. I don't know who wants to take this one.
I can speak to a little bit. I haven't been in here for 3 years now. I knew coming into this role that, just from a pure athletic standpoint, selfishly as the athletic director, I wanted to start to build those relationships and get those kiddos from the 7th and 8th grade classes to stay together, number one, and then from that 8th grade class have a strong relationship and build that with our coaches. So we've taken some steps as a department over the course of these, my 2 previous years, getting down there, especially in the spring. My coaches and I, we do a spring blitz. Surprise, we're coming down to lunch. Ryan knows that we've been down, but our coaches go down and we rotate that last quarter on a Friday, and coaches get in and they, shake hands, kind of, establish relationships with those 8th grade students and promote the programs and things like that. We've seen an added benefit of that, just a familiar face. Most of the kids know me when they walk in the doors. Hey, AD. It's Mr. Watkins. No, it's AD. Got it. Right. So so we've got some continuity there, and I think the steps that we've taken this year are just going to impact that even further. We try and do some things and make sure that our coaches are visible in the community. So on Friday night football games and things like that, we've got relationships not just with the kids, but with the parents. So we've taken those strides, and we're just going to keep on building again on this culture. So to impact the community, it's starting to, I see it more on a game day than anything, but the amount of Northwest swag that comes in, even from the middle school parents, and they're bringing their kids up to watch games, and the middle school kiddos are here all the friggin' time, and I love it. I love it.
It is nice.
And it's a good sense of community. I've said this on the podcast, I don't know how many times now, Bill, but we've got something special here at Northwest. We really do. And we've got great parents, great kids, and, the more that we can do together, there's strength in numbers. The more that we can do together, the better we're all going to be. So I think this relationship is paramount to the success of our students and the community.
I don't think you can emphasize or overstate the importance of a good school district for a community. I mean, home values, everything really goes into it, just crime, whatever. If you've got a good, solid school district, it's huge. And to build it from maybe the upper levels down, like we're trying to do here, from the high school down to elementary, you just can't overstate the importance of that.
Yeah. And I think, our district's a little unique in that we have 2 high schools, and one of our high schools is twice as big as the other.
True.
I always felt like the north side of the district was at a little bit of a disadvantage because we don't have a Colerain Avenue, where that community kind of organically, naturally happens, and you have Canes has go-karts, every Friday night on the marquee or whatever. So I feel like in Northwest we have to make a concerted effort to build our community more organically from a grassroots level, because we just don't have that natural center that people migrate like Colerain has with Northgate Mall or Colerain Avenue or whatever it may be. So I think that's why Brad's worked so hard to try and build those relationships.
We're dipping our toe into Colerain Avenue.
Right.
Let's be real clear. Cane's Chicken has a nice Northwest Knights helmet in their facility right now.
That's important.
No, but and all jokes aside, I think that there has been that north and south kind of divide before. I can tell you this: I get along, and we've talked this about the Butler Tech podcast. That unity where we've got Colerain kiddos in this program right here. They're right outside our door right now. Right. We've got this great family atmosphere within the district, and to kind of be able to branch off and even go, it's like Colerain's like our cousins. You know what I mean? We love them, we care for them, we want them to be successul. But at the same time, we've got our own family here, and we're building that stronger with Pleasant Run and PRE. Casey Schurz is a Northwest guy. He's our principal down at PRE right now. He was an assistant principal here at Northwest High School for 8 years plus. The first 2 years I was here, and Casey's doing a great job. So we've got people that recognize what this means to our part of the community as a whole, and to build that brand and to make sure that we're exposing, and all the good things that are happening at Northwest High School. I mean, selfishly, that's why we're doing the podcast, Bill.
Right.
That
makes sense.
And then to answer your question from 5-10 minutes ago, when we look at what results have you seen when you look at this stuff where you're going at grassroots level to elementary, you're probably not going to see the payoff for could be up to 5 or 6 years. But I do really believe 5, 6, 7 years down the road, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to see a lot of good fruit from the labor that we're doing now.
I agree.
Anything in your mind for the 2018-2019 school year that you're thinking of building on what you've done this year?
I'm willing to do whatever Brad lets me do, and he hasn't said no to anything so far, but I think we have a really good opportunity next year opening up the brand new Pleasant Run Elementary, which is literally 30 feet from Pleasant Run Middle School.
I'd say 10.
To kind of build that relationship between us and the elementary and maybe have some of our kids start going over there to do tutoring programs and things like that. I think we just have a really good, unique opportunity next year to kind of extend that olive branch down to the elementary. I feel like this year we've done a good job joining forces with the high school, but I think next year is our key to start joining forces with the elementary and really get a K-12 connection through our building. We're unique because they feed into us and then we feed into to Northwest High School, so we're kind of the key part to bridge everybody in that side of the district together.
On both ends of it.
So that's kind of the plan for next year.
Right, and that proximity with the elementary school, just being that close naturally through osmosis, I think good things will probably happen.
For sure.
That.
For sure.
Right. Well, I want to thank our guests. Anything else anybody wants to add?
No, we appreciate you guys having us.
Just want to make sure that this will probably go to air sometime in the early part of next week. Monte Carlo night, Northwest Boosters Association Monte Carlo night's happening on Saturday, January 27th at Receptions in Fairfield from 7 to 11 p.m. It's going to be a good time. For ticket information, feel free to give me a call.
All right.
And I will say I'm very excited as somebody who's attended Monte Carlo for years and years. They're doing a lot of new things this year and kind of changing the format, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store.
Well, great.
It's going to be fun.
Good. Nice. Well, I want to thank our guests, Eric Dunn, the principal of Pleasant Run Middle School, and Ryan Whitaker, Dean of Students at Pleasant Run Middle School. Thanks, guys. Very informative. Thanks also to our great technical crew from Butler Tech. I think in the past we've kind of let them.
Great job, guys.
Good job. And there's a variety of places you can get access to this.
Yeah, again, we're going to be found on. We are on iTunes. We'll tweet a link out to the YouTube channel for digital media productions, and we have our own SoundCloud. Yeah, so iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud are still the avenues to access the podcast, and people are listening. Believe it or not, we've got a lot of good numbers. So.
That's great. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you in February.